Gaming editing in 2024 is a rapid growing niche, but yet all the tutorials on YouTube are completely outdated. Now, as you've read by the title, in this video I'm going to be showing you exactly how to master gaming editing, and I'm going to be teaching you things I've learned over 4 years of video editing and some stuff I learned in Yes Lucid's gaming editing course. If you're a serious editor and you know what it takes to become successful, you can go and join my free community that has about 600 members you can interact with and just learn from. You can also check out the Yes Lucid gaming course in there. The link will be in the description. Now, since we're going to be mastering gaming editing, the first thing I've got to do is dig up some footage and import it into my project. Now, before we get started with editing an actual video, let's go through the 4 concepts of gaming editing. Starting off with subtitles, then we're going to move over to music. After music, let's move over to visuals or animations, and last but not least, sound design. Once we've mastered all of those, I'm going to go ahead and implement it into my own video editor. To begin the base of subtitles, let's start out by typing out whatever the person in the video is saying, and then just copy that layer for the entire video and change the text to match each different time. Then you should have subtitles that are unanimated. Now, a lot of you have come here to figure out how to animate subtitles to make them look super smooth and clean. There are 2 ways you can do it. You can either use the text property scale or the transform effect to incorporate motion blur. They both work the same, so whichever one you're using, just keyframe this scale and just make sure that this option is selected. And you're going to make 2 different keyframes about 15 frames apart. Keyframe the first keyframe to about 70 or 80, and then the second one, make it back to 100. Then head into the curve properties and make an entry curve. Then just play around with it and make it smooth to fit you best. If you want a free preset with a super smooth text animation on it, you can go and join the editor accelerator for completely free in the description, and I've included all the assets to this video in there, including that preset. Section 2 is going to be music, and I'm just going to blast through this really quickly to get the point straight to you. To find music, you can either pay using Epidemic Sound and get the best music possible by selecting each emotion to match your scene perfectly, but of course it costs money. But if you don't have any money to spend, you can use YouTube, and that is completely fine. It'll just be a bit harder to find non-copyright music that matches your scene. Now, actually editing the music to match the scene is really quite simple. Assuming you've already got the right kind of music for the right emotion of the video, just adjust the gain to match whatever the background music is intending to be. You can fade it in and out, but in general you don't really add any effects to music. You can cut music in awkward moments to make it seem more awkward and funny, or have drop beats on impactful moments to make it more entertaining. Regardless, a lot of these things I'm teaching you about are completely intuition, so I'm going to implement it in my own scenario later in the video to show you how I do something like this. Moving on, let's get into animation. When it comes to gaming videos, animation is the whole core of it. And instead of going over the same things I've gone over in 3 separate videos, which you can go watch yourself if you want to go into more in-depth guides of animations, I'm just going to be explaining why you should do animations on certain scenes and what the psychology behind the show not tell mentality is. The show not tell mentality is essentially your job to put the image in the viewer's head. So as you've probably noticed in every single YouTube video you've watched, even the one you're watching right now, a lot of the significant words have different animations for it, which makes it so much more entertaining than if I was just standing here talking with nothing on the screen. Same goes for whatever kind of video you are editing. Whatever it is, if you can match an animation to whatever the speaker is saying, it'll be 100 times more entertaining and you will definitely improve your editing. And moving on to the 4th and final concept, sound design. To find the right sound effects, you can either use Epidemic Sound or YouTube, or you could even go and download the free sound effects pack in the editor accelerator, just like the text preset I gave you earlier. Matching sound effects to certain moments is also intuition and goes off the same mentality of making sure the viewers hear what they're seeing. So make sure any movement you have will have a different sound for it. And any suspenseful moment or build up has something like a riser to make sure the viewer feels what the video is intending. Now, after all that, let's get started with actually editing the video really quickly to show you how all of these work in my scenario. The footage I'm going to be using can be found in the Elite Editors community as well as much more. The first thing I did was cut up all my footage to lay out the base of my video. Now, since I'm following the Yes Lucid course, I'm going to be replicating an effect he does in the course himself. Now, the first thing I did in replicating this effect was getting 2 images I was going to use to demonstrate what he was saying. After that, I added some basic effects to it like drop shadow, and I rounded out the edges and imported my own text animation to it to make it look a bit more nicer and self-explanatory. Then I added the basic 3D effect to both of the layers and keyframed the first image to spin to 180 degrees on an exit curve. Then I keyframed the second image to come from 90 degrees back down to 0 using an entry curve. And it should look something like this. Then I added a particle or a shake to make it look more impactful when it spins. I decided to start getting ready with the music, so I found a song that matched the scene and imported it into my project. After that, I went through to the next section of the video where I'm actually going to be entering After Effects to do a more advanced animation using the 3D camera. This isn't necessary, but using the 3D camera in gaming videos for explanatory moments can help out a lot and make it seem really nice and entertaining. Now that I'm done the 3D camera, I'm gonna get into some music design and sound effects to emphasize an awkward moment. You can see the whole finished product at the end of the video to understand why I'm doing this, but there's a really awkward moment where all the stuff he needs pops up all of a sudden. So what I did for that is I turned the music down to make it end off awkwardly and added a downshifter sound effect to emphasize the awkwardness. At the end of that awkward clip, I added a really high beat song to slowly fade in to make it seem like a riser. I made sure the next cut to be impactful, so I actually made it cut on a beat and it blended really nicely. Now for the last section of the video, I actually wanted to implement a really satisfying montage of him beating up a cow. So to create this effect, I cut up the clips of him beating up the cow, and on every single hit, I implemented it on a drop beat of the song. I made sure the actual kill of the cow was on the most impactful beat, so it just emphasized it a lot more. And then I kind of just played around with the clips and reversed one or two of them to make it seem really nice and just more like a montage. Doing this rather than just having a generic cut and kill would be so much more entertaining and more creative. And after all that, here is the final product.
Transforming Minecraft's regular desert temple into this, but it requires a lot of materials. The first being 94,000 deep slate, which is split into cobbled deep slate, polished deep slate, and deep slate bricks. Oh, and would you look at that? That's all of the materials. Not sure how that got there. Now there are just a few other materials like orange concrete, shroomlight, red sandstone, and orange terracotta. I'm quite hungry, so let me first of all